Welcome to the Course in Miracles on Facebook Live. This is Earl Purdy, and that ain't no jive. Of the North, I'm not a victim of the South. Victim of anything but what comes out my mouth. I'm not a victim of the world I see. So on today's Facebook Live, we're going to talk about the most dreaded F word that anybody ever hears. Y'all ready for the F word? Forgiveness. That is the F word. The F word is forgiveness. I'm going to talk about what it really means, how it relates to the face of Christ, which is the face of love. And I want to admit from the very beginning, I dread talking about this particular section. I just wanted to set it up front because in doing the Course in Miracles for over 30 years, I've never seen more resistance than the resistance that comes up when you use the word forgiveness and when you use the word Christ. Those two words seem to trigger people's experience, programming, learnings from the past, and then an automatic or not so automatic shield comes up. And so I am going to do it anyway, because the thing that brings up the most resistance might be the thing I need to take a look at the most. What you think? I'm not a victim of the North, I'm not a victim of the South. Not a victim of anything but what comes out my mouth. I'm not a victim. Can I say of the world I see? I'm not a victim of the world I see. Cause what's happening now? What's happening later? What it done to me? Oh, it's your fault. That's what's happening right now. I'm not a victim of. Let's yell that out. I'm not a victim of the world I see. I'm not a victim, no, of the world I see. Y'all hear me? Listen now. You don't have to believe the ideas, accept the ideas, or welcome the ideas. Some of the ideas are going to be hard to believe, and some of the ideas are going to be quite startling. You are not asked to judge and analyze the ideas at all. It's the use of the ideas that will give the ideas meaning to you and will show you that the ideas are true. You don't have to believe it. The victim, and let's yell it out. I'm not a victim of the world I see. Cause what's happening now is what I've done to me. Oh yeah. Can we give an acknowledgement to us?
Yeah.
That's right. And could we give some acknowledgement to everybody else? Yeah. One of the things that, thank you for coming on Facebook Live. I really appreciate those in the building and also those watching on Facebook Live. Please know that you're live, so that means you can interact with each other, that you can interact with me, that you can ask questions and make comments. I'm going to get you up here on my iPad so I can see what you're saying, and I will be following you. It's good to see everybody online. Shout out to Kim, Jesse, Kim, Doug, Stephanie, Nana, Marlette, CJ, Kathy, Lori, Sonia, Bobby, Elvis Presley. What?
Elvis Presley? He's in the building?
Elvis is in the building.
Oh my God.
Oh, he's come back from the other side.
Just for you.
I'm telling you, you ain't nothing but rocking all the time. I'm telling you, you ain't never caught a rabbit, so you ain't no friend of mine. Well, he has very weird standards for friendship. So I'm gonna start out by saying, like I was saying a little bit earlier, I let the Holy Spirit choose the sections of the Course in Miracles that I teach from. I've read the Course in Miracles way over 100 times from cover to cover. And so I'm pretty slightly familiar with it, as well as taught it for almost 40 years. So I think I'm up to the point that I could be spontaneously made aware of a section. So I always ask the Holy Spirit, what is it that the group that you are sending today, what is it they need to hear, whether they like it or not? And so I pulled a section that I didn't like it. It's not like I didn't like it because I don't like it. It's because I've been doing this long enough to know that a lot of times there's certain sections of the course I can cover that are pretty much guaranteed to kind of trigger people or make them go unconscious. And let me give you an example. The name of this section is Forgiveness and the Face of Christ. Okay? So if you have any latent religious unforgivenesses, you're feeling it right now. Okay? And so just remember that you are only reacting to your interpretation of what I just said. That whatever forgiveness means to you, that's what might trigger you, and also what the face of Christ. But the Course in Miracles, I like to take all the mystery out of the Course in Miracles. And the Course in Miracles, again, is only talking about two things, love or fear. The loving mind and the fearful mind. The loving part of my mind, the fearful part of my mind, and how I choose more for the loving, peaceful, free, abundant part of my mind, as opposed to choosing for the part of my mind that keeps me upset about one thing or another all the time. Another thing I'd like to say is that forgiveness, as the Course in Miracles teaches it, is nothing at all like forgiveness that we've been taught forgiveness means. And I'll say it again. The Course in Miracles definition of forgiveness is not the definition of forgiveness that most of us have been taught, which goes something like this. You did something to me. I'm better than you. I'm going to try to be better than you. I'm going to overlook what you did to me, for real. That's the regular world's attitude about forgiveness. You really did it to me, and I'm going to try to be so spiritual that I overlook what you really did to me. I'm going to try to be so loving that I overlook what you did to me. That is not the Course in Miracles definition of forgiveness. The Course in Miracles definition of forgiveness is basically correct perception, true perception. That when you have seen me correctly, you have forgiven me. When you see things correctly, you are forgiving it. So true perception is forgiveness. So if I see what does that mean? If I learn to see things the way the Course in Miracles teaches me to see things, I have forgiven. At the point that I'm looking at things the way the Course in Miracles tells me to look at things, I have forgiven. So how can I look at things the way the Course in Miracles is teaching me to look at things if I never read the Course in Miracles? So I'm going to give you, and also it says the face of Christ. And I want to give you one of the definitions of the Christ from the Course in Miracles perspective. And that definition is Christ is the self we share. The one self we share, uniting us with one another and with God. That's what the Course means when it says the Christ. There's one of us here. There's one self. We are sharing that self with each other, and we're sharing it with our Creator. So another term for Christ could be your true self. It is your loving self. Your real self, the Course in Miracles calls the Christ. So you can substitute those definitions if it makes it easier for you to be able to hear what this section is saying. So what we're saying is forgiveness in the face of Christ. Christ is love, right? So we're talking about correct perception in the face of love. Boop. Correct perception in the face of love. So the Course in Miracles says, this is a trip. And it's on page, it's on page 83. It's on page 83 in the Foundation for Inner Peace version of the Course in Miracles. Page 83, Forgiveness, the Face of Christ. Okay, so I'm going to go through a couple of paragraphs, and then I'm going to throw it open. Also, like I said online, don't hesitate. Throw it open for questions as well as questions and comments here.
Is that 83 in the text or in the teacher's
It's
manual?
page 83 in the manual for teachers. Page 83 in the manual for teachers, and I have a few extra copies up front in case anybody want to follow along. Forgiveness is for God. What? And toward God. But forgiveness is not of God. What? You need to forgive God. Your forgiveness needs to be toward God. God doesn't need to forgive you because God never sees anything that you've done as sinful. So God doesn't forgive, according to the course, which we don't have to believe. So that would be another way of saying correct perception is for God, and correct perception is toward God, because God isn't misperceiving. So it is impossible to think of anything God created that could even need forgiveness. So there is nothing that God created that needs forgiveness. There is nothing that God created that needs forgiveness. There is nothing that love created. See how you can just make that slight shift and all of a sudden it's not that abstract. If I really love you, that's what I don't like about this book. This book will not allow me to think more highly of myself than I should. Because it says stuff like, if it's love, there's nothing to forgive. If I really love you, there's nothing to forgive. Forgiveness is for people who don't love yet. The people who need to forgive are the people who don't know how to love yet. Okay? So the Course in Miracles says so. Forgiveness is an illusion because of its purpose, which is the Holy Spirit's purpose, except it has one difference. Unlike all the other illusions that you all come up with, forgiveness, which is correct perception, leads away from error, not towards it. So the more I see you correctly, the more I'm moving away from fear, the more I'm moving away from a mistaken perception of you. So forgiveness is an illusion because there's really nothing to forgive, because ain't nobody doing nothing to you, because you're the one that's determining how you feel, and you're the one that's creating your reality, and you're the one that's creating all the experiences that you're having in your perception. So everybody's acting out the desires that you have toward yourself. And so therefore, actually, they aren't doing anything to you. Nobody's doing anything to you. You're the one that's doing it to yourself by the interpretations that you're using of everything that's happening to you all day. It is you making you feel bad all day. It's not what anybody else is doing that's making you feel bad all day. That's not saying that people aren't doing things. I'm saying your response to it is your creation. So in that sense, nobody's making you feel bad all day. In that sense, you're the one that's making you feel bad all day. So therefore, there is nothing to forgive.
Except yourself.
Yeah, I like to say to people, the only crime that most people commit is they just didn't act the way I wanted them to. That's everybody's crime. Everybody's crime is you're not doing what I want you to do, and you're not acting the way I want you to act. That's your crime, and that's what I'm having to forgive you for. So it's me making me upset. And how do I know it's me making me upset? Because other people may not get upset about the exact same thing. If it was real, in other words, if I came up to you and stroked you on your cheek, the one up here, unless you're a really good friend. Then you might say, oh, that feels so good. And then if a total stranger came up and rubbed you on your cheek, you may be terrified and want to call the police. The same physical act happened. It was a hand rubbing against your cheek. So that was neutral. So what upset you was not the hand rubbing on your cheek. It was your interpretation and meaning that you gave to it, right? So it wasn't the hand on the cheek that was upsetting you, because if it was your partner on Valentine's Day, you'd be mad if they didn't. And that could be both cheeks. Okay? But If it's someone you don't want to touch you, then you get upset. So the truth is, I upset myself. And the way that I felt had nothing to do with that person really touching me. It was the meaning I gave it, right? So I made myself feel good about you rubbing my cheek. So I gave myself the pleasurable feeling. You didn't give me the pleasurable feeling. I gave me the pleasurable feeling. Now you're following me. So every time you say someone is making you feel good or they're giving you physical pleasure, it is not. The Course of Miracles says you are the sender and the receiver. You're the one that's giving yourself that feeling, and you're the one that's receiving that feeling. And then you are attributing it to that person because your interpretation of that person is that you want them to touch you. So it's you giving yourself all the pleasure you feel, and it's you giving yourself all the pain that you go through. The Course in Miracles says attack is physical. What does that mean? Well, if I come up to you and I physically hit you, I've attacked you. But if I call you out of your name, I haven't attacked you, because I didn't physically touch you, which means you're the one that's giving yourself the pain and the anger and the upset about what I called you. So you really didn't attack me. I attacked myself based on the interpretation I'm giving of it. This is very important. Because a lot of people get upset sometimes when I share this from the Course. What do you mean the attack is on the physical? What else, somebody verbally abuse you? I get that there can appear to be verbal abuse. I get that somebody can say something to me that I don't like. But that doesn't change the truth. See, you're liking something or not liking something doesn't really affect the truth of it. I don't know how to break that to you. But the fact you don't like something doesn't mean it's not true. You may not like to think that, like right now, if you call me the N-word, right, then it would be my interpretation of what you said that would be determining how I felt about it. If I didn't give any power to that word, it would not affect me at all. But if you came up and you hit me, that's a different deal. So attack is physical. It is not mental. It is not emotional in reality. It is physical and emotional with your story. In your story. That's a really important one to get. In your story, you were mentally abused. In your story, you were verbally abused. In your story, someone treated you bad. That's your story. In reality, they said words, and you gave those words a meaning, even as a child, and you may be still using those words and your interpretation of those words to make you feel you can't even have a relationship today because of the relationship you had with your father. That's your story. That's not reality. And so that's a biggie here. So the Course in Miracles is saying to us, that's why it says forgiveness is the illusion that doesn't lead to other illusions. It's really nothing to forgive, but if I forgive it, then I won't keep building on my false ideas about you. So it's an illusion that's not leading to other illusions. The next paragraph says forgiveness might be called a kind of happy fiction. I love that. What's that? It's a way, forgiveness is a way in which the unknowing, that's us, can bridge the gap between their perception and the truth. Okay, so let's make that simple. Okay, there's a gap between my perception and the truth. And correct perception is the way that I can bridge the gap between my false perception and the truth. I have false perceptions and there's the truth. And what do I need in between? A true perception. So forgiveness is true perception. True perception is a step toward absolute knowledge and absolute certainty. So when I forgive you and don't see you as being the one that's making me feel the way that I feel, now I'm on the way to knowledge. Now I'm on the way to knowing what the truth really is. Because the truth is beyond the way I'm looking at it. How can I tell, according to the Course, if the way I'm looking at something is wrong? By the way I feel. How? By the way I feel. So what should a person say that feels bad most of the time? I want another way to look at this. What else is it telling you about them?
I hope I'm wrong.
They should be hoping they're wrong, and it means their perception is incorrect. So that person you are having a hard time forgiving is a person that you're seeing incorrectly. Even if you think you're right. But you don't know what he did to me. You don't know what she did to me. I understand that. But if you were seeing correctly, if you were seeing from the perspective of the truth, you would have another reaction to what happened. That's what it means. I didn't say the person didn't physically do what you think they did. The wrong perception is the way you're looking at it. It's not saying you didn't experience that physically. Nobody's arguing about that. Maybe you got robbed. Nobody's going to say, forgiveness means I'm supposed to say I wasn't robbed. One day you will. When you wake up enough, you go, I wasn't actually robbed either. Right? Yeah. Enlightenment is just a series of realizations that you're wrong about everything. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? That's all enlightenment is. That you go, I'm wrong about this, I'm wrong about that. Oh, I was wrong about that. Oh, I was wrong about this. Oh, I was wrong about everything. Ooh. And you just levitate through the room. You know what I'm saying? Okay. So the Course in Miracles says, unlike all illusions, it leads away from error, not towards it. Did any of those first two paragraphs trigger any kind of thoughts that you'd like to share? Okay.
So you're physically abused.
Yes.
And you're looking at it, it's like, whoa,
yes.
That's not cool to me.
Right.
How is the correct perception? What would be the correct perception? I think over time, in my brain, there was forgiveness, there was letting it go, but
When I wake up, when I become more conscious, then I can go, that was a call for love, that was a call for help, that was a call for healing.
that had nothing to do with me.
It ultimately, the only thing about it that had anything to do with me is how I choose to look at it. Ultimately, see, there are two levels of being a creator of your reality. One level, which is the one we can more easily tap into, is the level that says, I am responsible for how I'm seeing things. All of us can tune into that level and go, okay, I'll admit I'm creating how I'm seeing this. When you begin to tap into your divine self, your God self, you'll realize you created everything. That is no part of what's happening that you didn't create. But that's too much for the average person to take in. That's just like too rich a cheesecake of truth right there. That's just too big of a slice. We ain't gonna be able to deal with the fact that if I had a car accident, my greater self created that experience was all part of my consciousness, all part of my mind. And the car, and the expressway, and the other car, and the other person in the other car, I am the street. We are everything. We are God. We are one. We are not bodies. We are this unlimited creator. And that's what we don't get, because we're identifying with the person with the social security number. And so we think we are this little identity that's walking around that's a victim to all of this. That is the ego. That is not you. That is your identity in this dream of separation that we're having. The best analogy for this, and I always say it because it's an easy one that people want to use it, when you go to sleep at night and you have a dream, and there's a bear chasing you down the street. When you wake up, you realize, oh, that dream took place in my mind. That meant I was the bear, I was the street, and I was the one who was running down the street, because it was all my mind, right? So that means everything in the dream was your creation, was your mind. This, by the way, is also a dream. Now you're having the dream that you are awake. And you're now in a class being taught by someone who seems separate from you named Earl Purdy. Just like when you were having the dream of the bear chasing you, it looked like it was you running and a bear that was chasing after you. Everything in your dream is you. Everything you are looking at is you. I am you. Amen. Now, you don't want to believe that, or you wouldn't be having the dream of separation. Okay, let's get straight about that. If we wanted to see it that way, we wouldn't think it was a bunch of separate people in here right now.
Right.
So there's a part of us that wants to think we're separate, and it's going to try to analyze this and break this down. Just forget all of that. The truth is, forgiveness, correct perception, will move you away from pain, will move you away from fear, and that's the point that this section is trying to make, is that there's another way to look at it, and it'll change your entire experience of your life. And if you look at people as if they are you, even if you don't tell them you're looking at them as if they are you, I guarantee you, you will start to see a difference in the way the public treats you. It will blow your mind, because underneath your regular everyday awareness is a part of you that's in communication with everything that exists. All of us know exactly what all of us are thinking, but we're pretending we don't. That's really what's happening. We all know what's going on. We are trying to pretend now that we are people who are separate little people, who are different colors and sexes and genders, having this little separate experience. And to make it seem like it's real, we have to have pain and pleasure, because pain and pleasure makes you identify with your physical body. And so it seems real because of our what? Physical senses. But your physical senses are like putting glasses on, and they color what you see. If I have on green glasses, I see the world with the green tint. But I'm not the glasses I'm wearing, and you are not the perceptions you are having. That's just the lens through which you are seeing your life. That's what's happening. I'll get the two of you. Peter, you had your hand up first.
Yeah, I just feel like.
Okay, well, when it come back to you, we can come back around. Would you got it?
You know, it's really funny, except my brain is like, come back to me.
Well, I can tell you what the Course in Miracles says that is, which is kind of
I went to
interesting.
sleep.
No, well, that's true. But the Course says that most of the time, when the ego feels threatened by something that it's hearing, it comes up with a question. And the purpose of the question is to disrupt the communication that's going on in that moment. And the way you can tell is when, that's right, and the way you can tell is when you come back, the person doesn't remember the question they were going to ask. So like a lot of times, a person can say they got a question, and I can say, let me get back to that question in 10 minutes. And they will absolutely don't remember the question. Because the purpose of the question was to stop the communication that I was saying, because the communication was threatening to their thought system and their ego. And there's not an easier way to break what somebody's saying than to interrupt it with a question or a comment. So I don't take it personally, because the Course in Miracles tells me exactly what my ego is going to do to stop my peace. That's why I studied the book, you all. This book tells you every single trick that you're going to play to try to block your happiness. That's why I think it's ridiculous not to study it. Because it's going to tell you what you're going to try to do to jam yourself up, and so you don't have to suffer from the truth. We're not really that hard to figure out.
Okay, I got it.
Okay. I knew it would bring it back.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Yeah, the ego's running them up. I'm 1066 here, Social Security. Anyway.
Loud. Don't forget, we got folk online. They want to hear what you're saying.
I find sometimes that I try to look at a person like myself, try to apply that.
Mm-hmm.
And then while I'm doing that, then there's the other part of me going, you SOB. And there's the other part of me that is still attached to the lack of forgiveness and negativity. And then there's this part of me. And so it's a real duality that I find bothersome.
And what's your question?
How's the best way to deal with that? Or should I just accept it, pay attention to
What's the best way to deal with what?
of seeing somebody in a dual way, like trying to
Make it
see
okay.
it as myself,
Okay.
and then at the same time, the crap that caused me to want to see them as myself.
Well, that just depends on how much peace you want in that moment. If I want out of the conflict, then I'm going to choose to use an interpretation that the Course in Miracles has told me to use. See, I don't have to figure it into this out. That's what I love about it. I don't have to figure out how to look at that person. I know that the Course in Miracles has told me to see it as a call for help, see it as a call for love, recognize that I'm giving it all the meaning it has, that I'm not really upset for the reason I think I'm upset, because of how I learned to look at it. I found out it was me I didn't want to let off the hook. It looks like it's other people that you're trying to decide whether or not to let off the hook, but actually it's only you. See, Peter, I'm going to have a much better experience of you if I choose to see you as a call for love and my brother. That's just built in. If I see you as my brother that's also like me, that also has an ego, that sometimes misperceive things, that's going to make me more compassionate and understanding. Or I can see you as a no good son of a bitch that just give me a hard time all the time. If I want to see you that way, it's not going to feel good to me. So actually, it's me attacking me depending on how I want to see you. And so, you know, so you're not giving the person so much of a present as you're giving yourself a present, and you do have a choice of how you want to see them. Why don't you just use the choice that you've been educated to use?
I think I'm doing that, but then when I walk away, I still have that.
Well, that means you did it one time and you stopped. See, you did it one time.
No, every time I think of them.
Well, if you do it every time you think of them, you can't maintain that attitude. Sorry. There's no way you're using that all the time and saying I'm still maintaining the same feeling. There ain't no way. There ain't no way. If I'm seeing you correctly and I'm seeing you correctly, and if I'm seeing you correctly, and if I'm seeing you correctly, and if I'm seeing you correctly, if I'm seeing you correctly, I'm going to feel more peace. Now, if I see you correctly 10 times, but on the 11th time I see you're no good son of a gun, now I'm right back to the attack thought. I get back to the feeling of attack that I had in the very beginning. I'm glad you said that. The truth is not something you say one time and it's enough for all of creation. And that's what our ego does. It'll go, well, I said he was a call for love. Okay, you back. All right. If those of you online, I forgot to put you really get off the Wi-Fi altogether. So therefore, it may freeze every now and then. If it does, I will return. Just hang in there. I'll be back. You can't get rid of me that easy. I'll be back. Okay? Hang in there. Okay.
Earl, the thing is, I find that, well, I'll take one person in my brain. They come up on a negative level. Then I try to apply, the course. I mean, I really do. And then it kind of drops away. I feel a little peaceful. And then the next time I think of it, it just...
Did you just hear what I just said, Peter?
Yeah.
All right. Which is you have to, you keep telling yourself the truth and you stop beating yourself up for not telling the truth. It's okay. If you don't forgive them for the next 10 times, you can put a little bit, just a little bit of feeling better one time. That's good. That's a start. Pat yourself on the back for that. That's what I'm saying. Appreciate your good efforts. Overlook the mistakes. You're not going to do it perfectly all the time. If we were going to do it perfectly all the time, we would have no need to study the Course in Miracles. So the first thing you got to do is be gentle with yourself and stop beating yourself up because you don't always do it right. That is actually feeding your ego. You're feeding your ego every time you beat yourself up because you think you're still listening to your ego. Accept your ego. Accept your ego. Accept that the person that thinks that they're separate, they're going to have ego. They're going to have fear and love, peace and conflict. If you were to accept that, that would undo your ego because your ego is undone through peace. Peace is what undoes your ego. Not figuring it out, judging it, giving it power. No, what ends your ego is you not battling it. Your ego loves for you to analyze it. It loves for you to figure it out. It loves for you to try to figure out how you can get rid of it. Because that gives it reality. You can only try to get rid of something that really exists. But if you go, oh, this is my ego hating somebody else. Oh, this is my ego doing this judgment thing. Oh, that's my ego saying I'm not enough. You should have that exact, that's just my ego, being in ego. That's how you get past the ego, not by making it the focus of all your attention so that you crucify yourself every time you get upset about something. It's like you get rid of your anger by not getting angry about getting angry. You get rid of your fear by not being afraid of your fear. You get it by just accepting that's my ego doing its thing. That's what an ego does. It does guilt. It does anger. It does insecurity. The main thing it does is I can't have what I want. That's the ego's favorite one, is that there's something that I want that's unavailable to me. Seek and do not find. Oh, when I get that relationship, I'll be happy. Oh, when I get that raise, I'll be happy. Oh, that's your ego. Your ego is basically every aspiration you have in life. I'm sorry, it is. Your ego is every dream you come up with, every ambition you come up with, anything you tell yourself has to be different for you to be happy is taking you away from the truth, which is your happiness comes from within. So there is no, when I hear people telling me all the things that they want, I hope they have a chance to experience them so they'll realize that that's not going to do it. because it might open them up to finally looking within. That's what happened to me. Every fantasy I thought I wanted and that I thought I wanted to experience happened in my 20s and 30s and 40s especially. And so it was like, oh, I wasn't happy when I got not one single thing that I thought was going to make me happy. Not one of them gave me any kind of permanent joy before my ego went on the next hunt for the next person, thing that was going to make me happy. So at some point on the spiritual path, you wake up to the fact that you're leading yourself on a wild goose chase all the time. Now, does that mean you don't let yourself have that pretty house or car? Or no, it just means if you're generating your happiness from within, you'll be happy with the house, you'll be happy with the car, you'll be happy with your clothes, but it won't be caused by it. That way, if it left, which it will, because all things in time end and begin, so you're not stupid about that either. You're not going to be a person that's looking for anything in physical perception to last forever, so you can enjoy it more while you're happy, because you know it's going to change. You know it's going to leave. You don't spend your time like unconscious people who are always trying to make the temporary permanent. You know, because you're conscious. You know that person's going to change. You're in a relationship with them. You know doggone well they're going to change from the way they are today. So you won't feel betrayed when all of a sudden they don't want to do what they used to want to do with you. Because they're going to change. There's nobody you're going to ever be with that's not going to change. They are going to change. But the world teaches us that the illusion is you're going to be with somebody and they're going to stay the same so that you can feel safe in how you deal with them, because you can always count on them always being that way. A total setup for grievance. A total setup every time you tell yourself that. And it's cruel to that other person because you'll never let them grow. They have to not grow to placate your insecurities. Who wants to be with you? If that's the way you are, that's not loving. What's loving is to walk up to that person every day and say, who are you today? Who are you today? I know who I thought I was with last year. Who are you now? Be excited, right? So forgiveness is everything I just got through doing. Forgiveness is seeing the thing differently. I'm forgiving you, Chris, if I let Chris be different. I've forgiven Chris now. I don't expect Chris to be the same. And I don't expect Chris not to have an ego come up. I'm not going to be with Chris saying, Chris, you can never get angry. You can never get upset. You can never be disappointed. You can never. That's the cruelest thing in the world. Is to be with somebody and expect them to not have the same feelings you do. You know you do. You know you don't feel the same way all day, every day. You know that. Why would you put that on somebody else? But we do. Or you betrayed me. No, I betrayed you and me if I'm not my authentic self. That is betrayal, my friend. It's when I'm not being true to me for you. That was good. That show, brother, that cranked up a few things. I think it's like, how some light bulbs go off in here. There's a lot of betrayal going on in the house.
See the game.
Yeah, my brother.
I just have, it's just kind of a technical thing, but in terms of, you're not saying there has to be physical contact for there to be an attack, are you?
I'm not saying what?
There has to be physical contact for there to be an attack, are you?
I'm saying it has to be something physical that affects something physical.
Okay.
Right.
I have somebody pulls a knife on me, is that an attack?
If someone does what?
Pulls a knife on me.
Not until they stab you.
Oh, are you sure?
I'm sure. They have not attacked you until they actually stab you with the knife. At the level.
So just brandishing a knife and saying, I'm going to cut your throat.
You haven't actually attacked me. That's the story.
Okay.
The story is you may stab me. The fact is you have not.
Okay. So you're saying that the only time there is actually an attack is if after you're dead in that particular case?
Well, actually, you probably are too guilty to die, so that won't be a problem. Okay, so, you know.
Well, no, you said unless there's a physical component.
I'm just saying what the Course says. The Course says all attack is physical, and if what you're doing now is you're giving me different stories,
No, I'm going to
right? Yeah, no, it hasn't happened yet. The physical attack on my body has not happened. Everything else is what I think may happen in the future. I think in the future you may stab me, but that's not a fact. That's a story. So you haven't really attacked me until you attack me. And then you go, now that's not saying, don't get me wrong. That's not saying if somebody has a knife come in, I'm going to say, well, just you ain't attacked me yet, though, till you stab me. No, I'm going to get the hell out of there, or I'm going to do something that I think would give me peace and that may not occur to me. So it's not saying at any level don't use your common sense. It is saying until a miss is as good as a mile. How many times during the day did you almost have an accident? Well, you didn't. So you kept on driving, and you don't think about it 8 hours later and go, wow, that person could have run into my car. Usually you go, oh, that didn't happen, and you move on. It's only when your cars actually collide that y'all have an issue to deal with. And that's true with everything. Until it actually physically occurs, it hasn't happened. But that's not saying you would not do what would be necessary to assure your safety. Am I clear? Okay, because what I'm saying is everything the ego doesn't want to hear. Do y'all understand that? I am not saying what your programmed mind from the world wants to hear. That's the whole purpose of this class. That's the whole purpose of the Course in Miracles, to say something to piss you off. It's to say the very things none of us want to hear, because it's the things that will free us. So I'm glad you asked that question, because that makes perfect sense that kind of question would come up. But it doesn't mean I'm not going to take evasive action if I think, but I wouldn't. Now okay, we'll take it to the next level. I wouldn't be in a situation where a person was about to stab me if I didn't have attack thoughts. That didn't just happen that accidentally that person is standing in front of me with a knife. Right. They're standing in front of me with a knife because of my own consciousness, my own attack thoughts. Attack. And that's what people don't want to hear. I love the fact that I can say I'm the creator of my experience if it has to do with manifesting the car I want to drive. But I don't want to hear I'm the manifest of my experience when I have an abusive partner. See, that's somebody else. See, we don't want to own all of it. We want to pick and choose what it is that we are the creators of. And you don't transcend the whole situation until you own the whole situation. And then understand you have the Holy Spirit with you, your loving right mind, your divine self, that will protect you. That will protect you if you spend the time to develop a relationship with it. See, we sort of like that, not we, I don't know about you, but a lot of people are like those people you see on the movie that is when the car goes over the cliff, they say, help me God. They don't think about God, they don't think about truth, they don't think about anything like that. Until they're going over the cliff. Then they go, God help me. No, you haven't developed a relationship. Not because God's punishing you, because you don't really even expect to be saved. Because you haven't developed that relationship. We've been taught that it's all about becoming self-sufficient and autonomous ourselves. We're taught it's all about how much can you do on your own, by yourself, without any kind of help from anything other than your own wits and ingeniousness, is what the Course says. Because that's the textbook definition of the ego. It's the you that thinks you're alone. It's the you that thinks you have to sacrifice for everybody. That is not you. That is your ego, and you are identifying with your ego. And this book is saying you are not who you think you are. And so rather than arguing with that, why? Because the me I think I am is afraid, and it doesn't know the truth, and sometimes it thinks it can have what it wants, sometimes it thinks it's broke, sometimes it thinks it's happy. Who wants to keep that identity going? You want to get in touch with the identity that's solid and loving and conscious and connected. You don't want to defend the part of you that don't know what's going to happen 3 hours from now, but that's what the ego tells you to do. You better keep on depending on the part of you that don't know what's happening. You better keep on listening to the part of you that thinks the world is separate from you and you're a victim of it, because that's the safe way to be. Well, that makes you just like everybody else walking the street. At that point, you're not a consciously evolving being. You're just like everybody else who think they're a victim of everything. And this book is saying, no, you're loved. You are supported. You are not alone. The only problem you got is your thoughts. Your thoughts are the only problem you have. And you have control over those thoughts. And you can choose to think differently. And you don't even have to figure out the thoughts. That's the other thing. You don't have to figure out the thoughts. The thoughts are already given. They're right here in this book. But the ego mind doesn't want to read the book. It's the words. They use masculine terminology. Oh, it's got Christian church. It's like all those are just excuses to keep yourself going through the hell you're going through. Because it's just like it's just like you died from overdose or some kind of poison, right? And you just screwed up. You about to pass out in a second, and then I come up to you and I'm giving you the antidote in a blue cup, and you go, oh, I can't take that antidote. It's in the blue cup. I won't take the antidote unless you give it to me. That's what I do when I hear people going through all that. This uses Christian terminology and it's talking masculine. Oh, the content's not important to you. It's going to save your freaking life because it's coming to you in a blue cup. So just because it said him, even if it could open your whole experience up and allow you to have everything you ever wanted, you are not going to study because the book said the Son of God. How stupid is that? But we do it. I see it all the time with core students. It's like, it's all about the form it's written in. I'm like going, it's the content, friend. It's the content that's what's important, not the form it's written in. You can change the form as much as you want to. Substitute. Use other words. But don't use it as an excuse not to hear the content, which will save you, which will open you up to a whole brand new level. I'm gonna take these two and I'm going to go to the next paragraph.
So,
Yeah, go ahead.
so it's interesting because when you brought up the example of the car accident,
Yeah.
I had a bad car accident a couple months ago.
How you doing, by the way?
Oh, I'm like 95%.
I'm glad you're here, brother.
But yeah, thank you. But yeah, when you mentioned that car accident, it's like just panic came up, and like right now I'm having a hard time hearing you because it's like I have this panic attack and I'm like trying to breathe. So how do I apply what we're talking about now to this?
So you said you're having a deep call for God. You're having a deep call for love. As you're hearing this, you're having a deep call for God. You're having a deep call for love. As you're hearing this, you're feeling a deep call for us to see it another way. You're having a deep call to recognize your innocence. You don't try to get rid of your panic attack. You be with what you're feeling right now and let yourself feel it completely without judging yourself for feeling that way, and then it will move like the clouds in the sky move. What keeps our emotions locked in place is we grab them, and it's like, imagine your thoughts are like a parade. And then you watching a parade, right? Then you grab the majorette. Now you got issues, right? If you had to watch the majorette march on past, no problem. That's our thoughts. This is our thoughts. I hate myself, I'm not no good, nobody loves me. You're horrible, nothing's gonna go right for you. You need to lose 20 pounds. Right? And then what we do is we grab that thought, and then we analyze that thought, and then we judge ourselves by that thought, and then we make ourselves feel something. We could have let it march on by and go, oh, okay, that's my thought of not enough. Oh, that's not really original. You know, I've seen this parade. But see, the ego doesn't do that. It grabs it, right? But it's like that old Lucy show when they was trying to wrap up candy that was on the conveyor belt. Some of y'all might be not old enough to remember that. But the conveyor belt was moving really, really fast. And it got to the point she couldn't wrap all the candy up, so she started grabbing and putting it in her mouth, right? So that's us. We could let these thoughts just march on through, but we don't. We grab it and we analyze it, right? But then there are other thoughts. So you go, oh, poof, and then you set that thought on the shelf, and then you see another thought you think you got to do. Oh, we grab that thought about not enough. Put it up on the shelf, and before we know it, we got a whole library of crazy thoughts that we think we have to go back and get rid of and examine. And that's why we go all the way back to our childhood to analyze thoughts that happened when we were 5 years old. Because we've taken all those thoughts and put them up on the shelf instead of realizing that, you know what, no matter what I thought in the past, no matter what I went through in the past, right now I can choose for another thought. See, that's what we forget. I don't care. I could give y'all some stories. You could give me some stories. I could tell you some horrible stuff that appeared to have happened to me as a child. But I'm not letting that limit me anymore. I'm not going to let that be an excuse for me not allowing myself to enjoy my life. I'm not going to do that, but that's my choice. You got the same choice. So you can do your story from now on to the day you die, but there's a payoff you're getting from doing it. And that payoff that you're getting from it is more important to you than the pain that you're going through from that story. That story is there for a reason. It is something you're getting out of it. That's the truth. That's why you won't let what your daddy did go. It's a payoff you're getting out of it. That payoff might be, that's why I haven't been able to have relationships with men. So I can justify my relationships because of what my father did, rather than me changing my mind. The Course in Miracles goes a step further. It says the Holy Spirit will change your mind for you. But you haven't developed that level. He said, but you haven't developed that level of willingness yet. You could have everything in your mind shifted for you. Wow. But I have to develop a relationship with my higher power for that to happen. It ain't going to happen if I don't invest any energy in my relationship with God. And that's what I'm trying to keep from doing. You see, I want all the benefits of the Course without doing anything it says. Can I be honest with you? I want all the benefits of all these books I study without me actually doing anything. I want to just listen to you, Earl, and walk out and the love of my life show up because I heard you. All I'm doing is supporting you. I'm supporting you. But I am not doing it for you. Holy Spirit will. Holy Spirit will do it for you. And the Holy Spirit is real. It's real. You had your hand up, darling.
Okay, so what comes up for me around forgiveness
Mm-hmm.
is if I judge something as a verbal abuse or if I'm actually physically attacked,
Mm-hmm.
and I get that this is all an illusion anyway, it's not real, so there's nothing to forgive, and nothing can actually sabotage my truth of who I am.
Yes.
The love that I am.
Yes.
So that way of forgiving is so powerful.
Yes.
And the thing that comes up for me is so say that I'm physically attacked,
Mm-hmm.
and I forgive,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that I truly do forgive, and that's my brother, and whatever happened, and I go on with my life. It's not deterred because of that.
Mm-hmm.
Then I have a challenge with how the form of that love is. Like, I don't necessarily want to invite that guy to dinner. I don't necessarily want to have the form of a relationship.
Well, that's where you can.
Like the love is
Exactly.
there, but the form is there.
Sometimes the love is there because you don't see them.
Yeah.
because what you're basically saying is that I'm freeing myself up from a perception that I have of them. You know, yeah, that's a good point. Forgiving somebody doesn't mean that you're going to have to go out to lunch with them. Because it's all taking place within your mind. Because if the grievance took place in your mind, the forgiveness can take place in your mind too. It doesn't mean that you have to seek them out unless you want to. Sometimes you're led to do that, and it can work. But if that was the case, you could never forgive somebody who's made the transition called death. So obviously, having to physically deal with the person wouldn't be necessary to do forgiveness, or you could not forgive someone who's no longer in physical form. So it's really what he's saying. Forgiveness is a change of perception, and that's what makes forgiveness more easy. The hard forgiveness is the world's forgiveness, which is you really did something to me, and I'm supposed to act like that didn't happen. That's the ego's forgiveness. Correct perception is me recognizing that in the end, no one's done anything to me at all. Now, here's the cool part about this, you all. I know that there may be a lot of resistance to owning your experience 100% as being your creation at some level. But I defy you to do that with any level of regularity without blaming yourself and not see your life become more peaceful and people who attack disappear right from your life. It's the people who feel justified in keeping their grievances that keep the attack going. I've never met a true student in 40 years that really went, I'm responsible for what I see. I choose the feelings I experience. I decide to put in the goal I would achieve, and everything that seems to happen to me I ask for and receive as I have asked, which is right from the Course, and not seeing the drama quotient in their life decrease to the point that it disappears. It's the people who want to hang on to all the reasons why I should keep my grievance going. Those are the ones I see that keep attracting attack to themselves, or what they would call a negative situation. I have never seen a person who started to take responsibility for their life not end up having more peace, even though it looks on the outer that it would be just the opposite. Because it looks like if I'm doing that, I'm letting somebody off the hook. I am. Me. Me. I'm letting me off the hook. And that's why I don't want to forgive. That's the true reason why I don't want to forgive. It's because I don't want to let me off the hook. I think I deserve punishment. I think I'm the one with the grievance against me. So your desire to forgive is much more of an indication of how much you're ready to let yourself be loved than it is you're letting somebody off the hook who hurt you. Remember that the people you attract in relationships are just coming to give you the gift of what you think you deserve. That's all they're doing.
So we have to take. So we have to take our focus off the air and what they did, and just focus on us being happy and moving.
Putting the focus on your own change of mind, your own healing, your own willingness to seek it. Because think about it, Jerry. That's what you have some control over. See, all this book is saying to us is, you want to have the easy way? Well, why don't I direct you to the stuff that you really have something to say about? But your ego is going to say, make my happiness dependent on someone else being different. That's what the ego is going to always say. If they were different, I would be happy. Boom.
I feel like a lot of this kind of relates to that very first line of forgiveness is for God and toward God, but not of Him. And the way I kind of experience that line is I have to forgive my interpretation of what God was to me, which is the type of God that would have created me and all of you to need forgiveness.
Yes.
So it's like I have to truly forgive like that conception of God that would say, I'm not enough and you are not enough. And so in that forgiveness that I give to God of incorrectly perceiving God, then I can realize, oh no, this creator, this love, this universal force, whatever feels most genuine to you or to me, gives this love equally and created us all perfectly. And so how can I give love that's more similar to God's?
Exactly.
Because if I think that God has been an unforgiving God that sees me as sinning, then if I want to give love like that God, I need to see you guys as needing forgiveness and sinful.
That's right.
So it's like I have to correctly perceive what God is and means to me and how God loves me in order to give that.
And I agree completely with what you're saying. And that's what I meant at the top of the hour when I said we had to forgive these perceptions of God. That's what it says. Forgiveness is toward God. Because what's jamming us up and what's keeping us from getting all the help that we could get is our own grievance toward God. We won't let God function in our life because we're thinking our Creator is still what we learned to think our Creator is. So we need to change our interpretation of what our Creator is, which is what He says forgiveness is a new interpretation. That's exactly right. But guess what? That's true about everything that's causing you any kind of pain. Everything. If you think you're broke and you always have financial challenges, you got a misperception of what money is. You think you got a health problem, you got a misperception. Just go, I have a misperception. There's something about this that I'm not seeing correctly. And I want another way to look at it. He says that over and over again. Say, I don't like the way I feel right now. I hope I'm wrong. He tells us the same thing over and over again. And a fifth grader could do that. But because we are adults, then there's a part of us that wants to be right about the way we see things. And so therefore, there's a tendency for us to resist guidance that we didn't think of. That adults have a hard time accepting any kind of guidance or education that they didn't do. Because that's almost like what our definition of being an adult is that I handle it all and I handle it all on my own. So even if what I'm going to do for you would help you, you may refuse it just because it wasn't your idea. And that's what he's trying to get us to see. We got all kinds of help, all kinds of solutions available to us, but I only want the ones I think of. And so if I didn't think of it, I'm going to doubt it, I'm going to resist it, I'm not going to want to use it.
I have a comment, not a question, but I just want to say I'm getting what you're saying about physically attacked. So now I'm thinking in my life, well, heck, I'm 48 years old. Would have been attacked maybe 10 or 12 times.
Thank you.
In 48 years.
Thank you.
But I also wanted to comment, so that makes me, it takes a weight off. Makes me feel better when I'm hearing that because I'm getting that. And I've heard it before. You said it before. But I wanted to comment on, I was actually really attacked on New Year's Eve.
Mm-hmm.
And I just want to comment that I was using some Course in Miracles tools to get out of that pain.
Mm-hmm.
It was very painful.
Mm-hmm.
Someone had come up and grabbed me, and I had to defend myself, and I had to push them back, and they grabbed me again. It was a grabbing thing, but it traumatized me because
That's right.
I haven't been touched for 15 years. Nobody's touched me.
Mm-hmm.
And so this happened, and I had to, how am I going to deal with this? And I used my Course in Miracles tools, and it pulled me out of that mess. It was deep, and I was getting paranoid. Oh, cops are coming. I'm going to go to jail. I mean, so much went through my mind, and paranoia, fear, and anger from my past when this happened, because it was a kind of it shook me up. And but I'm saying I used my Course in Miracles tools, and it pulled me out 360. So I just want to implore the Course in Miracles. Thank God for the Course in Miracles.
And that's what it means when I say I only see the past. It's like that happened, right? So it isn't about you condemning yourself. It was like, how are you going to look at it?
Well,
And you know, and that's the
You were
beauty.
saying online one time, and you said recognize that you did the same thing that this person did, and that pulled the pain away, because I was like, this son of a gun did this to me. But you mentioned on one of your classes, you're like, recognize that you did the same exact thing as this person at one time. And so I recognized, oh my God, yes, I was a bully in middle school. I remember grade school, I pushed people, and I did the same thing, and that pulled a lot of pain right there.
Because you no longer saw yourself as different from the person.
Okay.
And the minute you didn't see yourself different from your attacker, you had another perception of it. We all have attack thoughts. Either thoughts of being attacked or thoughts of attacking. The Course in Miracles says a thought of being attacked is an attack thought, as well as a thought of attacking someone, because people have a tendency to think an attack thought is just you attacking somebody. But he says, no, an attack thought is just as much you being afraid all the time or thinking you're going to be attacked. So you want to let go of all attack thoughts. And he said, well, how do I do that? Well, if I saw my attack thought as a call for peace, if I saw that attack thought as a request for safety, then I am changing my interpretation of the attack thought, so I would also give myself a different experience of it. And that's why the Course in Miracles keeps saying, the truth is an experience. We're trying to do this intellectually. We're trying to make sure we get all of this figured out in our minds, then I'm going to apply it. And that's not going to work. That's the ego's favorite game with the Course in Miracles. I'm going to figure this all out, what you're talking about, and then maybe I might try a little of it. Well, actually, it's the other way around. You can't apply it and not get the result. So after you start applying it a few times and you start seeing more and more results, you drop the whole analytical process and you go, now what is it I need to remember to do right now, say right now? Well, how should I be expressing myself right now? And you will do that when you've suffered enough and you're ready, because you know you're going to be freed. You know you're going to be loved. You know your life is going to start working. So you got to make sure you don't do this as long as you want to punish yourself now. Y'all make sure y'all don't do none of this as long as y'all want to go through pain. All right? Make sure you don't practice any of the things that I've said today as long as you want to punish yourself. Okay, you promise? Don't read, don't study, don't apply, analyze, complain. Keep doing that. And that will assure you that you will continue to give yourself the pain and suffering that you think you deserve, because you don't see yourself as innocent as the Course is saying you are. But what's cool about the truth is it's eternal, so that means it's going to be there whenever you're ready for it, because that's what lasting forever means. It means it's always available. So 30 years from now, will what I said today be available? Yes. But that's 30 years of needless suffering that you're putting yourself through that you don't have to. But it'll be there whenever you get ready. That's why one of the biggest gifts you can give people sometimes is just remembering the truth for them and let them have the experience that they think they need to have. Because the sooner they crash and burn, the sooner they'll go, there must be a better way. And sometimes all you're doing is interfering with their process and stretching out their pain even longer, rather than allowing them to experience what they need to experience from not practicing the truth. And it doesn't mean you're being cold, because you're willing to be there for them to be another perspective when they're ready for it. So you haven't abandoned them to their pain, but you know they won't listen to you until they reach their limit. And so in the meantime, you enjoy your life, you enjoy the truth, you let yourself feel loved, and you let yourself feel loved, so that if they wait 6 months before they're ready to be happy, you are having a good time in that 6 months, which keeps you patient. Oh, you want to wait 2 more years before you forgive me? Great. Now I'm going to be in Jamaica, Hawaii, and I'm going to Disney World. And the next 2 years, I'm having an incredible relationship. I'm going to let myself have prosperity. I'm going to go hear this awesome reggae band the first Tuesday of every month at the other side of Cervantes. And then when you finally get, oh, I'm tired of suffering. I think I forgive Earl for what he didn't do. I welcome you back with open arms. Because now you're sane again, so I can go out to lunch with you if I want. The only reason why I really wouldn't want to is I'm still thinking of you in terms of how you used to be. But if you really changed, I won't have a problem with going to lunch, and I won't have a problem with not going to lunch. It won't matter either way if I've forgiven you. I'm okay if I do and okay if I don't. You follow what I'm saying? Why don't I want to go out to lunch with you? I'm still making you the person I was with before. And I'm still seeing you as the person that I saw you as before. That's why I don't want to go out to lunch with you. But if you really changed and you're sane and you're loving, why would I not want to go out to lunch with you? Or why would I feel bad if I don't? I'll be okay either way. I'm sorry, you all. I'm going to see you as innocent and that you deserve to be happy no matter how much you think you don't deserve it. I'm going to keep telling you that you're not alone and that you're blessed, and that the only reason why you're suffering is you won't change your mind and you're still defending your ego. Every time you go, yes, but, that's just your ego trying to maintain what you've already been going through because you're not ready to let it go yet, because there's a part of you that thinks, rightfully so, that if you get punished, you'll be okay again because you grew up in a society that teaches you that punishment is correction. So if I suffer, I paid my debt, and now I can be happy again. And Earl, you're trying to take my suffering away. You're telling me I don't deserve to be punished. You're telling me I don't deserve to go through pain. Well, then that's my way out, is my suffering and punishment and going through pain. So you're actually blocking me being okay again by making me jump over my punishment. That's the way the psychology of the mind of the ego works. So I know that for some people, they have to suffer before they'll let themselves have a good time. They have to have 6 months of not being able to pay their bills before they'll be okay about money showing up, because they'll say, boy, I've gone so long without money, it's okay for me to let some money in now. You follow what I'm saying? Oh, it's been so long since I had anybody to love me. It's okay for me to have a boyfriend now. You see what I'm saying? It's like by depriving ourselves, we think it makes it okay for it when it finally comes. Because now I can say, look how long I was without it. And the Course in Miracles is saying, why don't you skip over that step? You don't need that step of suffering to make it okay for you to have a loving person. You deserve a loving person because of who you are. And someone is telling you that, you should be jumping up and down on the side with them instead of trying to figure out every way it could be wrong. And that's okay too. But think about that. The Course in Miracles says that. You ought to be siding with me even if you don't know how none of this is going to happen.
Yeah.
And I went, you right, Jesus. He said, yeah. He said, if you don't know how you're going to be happy permanently, you shouldn't be arguing with the idea. But the ego does. What do you mean? How's it going to happen? It's like, why the hell are you arguing with me about me saying you deserve to be loved? But that's what we do, don't we? It's like, okay, I'm gonna find a hole in what you're talking about, dude. I know this couldn't be possibly true. What you talking about? You see what I'm saying? It's like, I'm saying you deserve to be happy. I know it. That's a problem here. You know? So let's acknowledge us for hearing the Black Man Rant. Another episode of the Black Man Ranting. And online. Thank you for letting me rant. Okay, we're going to do a quick recap in just a minute. I'm going to do the financial expression of appreciation. Thank you for showing up today. I know it was cold and we had some snow and other things, you know. Thank you, Jason. I'm glad those of you online are taking advantage of this opportunity to hear this and to communicate as powerfully as you are with each other. Thank you, CJ, for narrating from heaven. And and it's sending y'all lots of hearts. It's hearts going all across the screen right now. You know, we have some beautiful, mighty companions that are listening and watching. I'm available for one-on-one sessions called Clarity Sessions, and I've been having some Clarity Sessions that have been mind-boggling for me as well as the people that I've been doing them with. This is a very intense time of transformation right now. And I'm talking to a lot of people who are going through transformations in ways that they've never gone through transformations before at a deep fundamental level. At the end of the class, Sheila's going to make an announcement that I want y'all to get a chance to hear right quick. And I love the power and the insight that Holy Spirit gives through my knowledge of astrology and numerology, which is also part of my sessions. And so when you came here, there was a blueprint of the intentions of your soul when you landed. You didn't just come here having to try to make it up as you go along. You had an agenda that you wanted to act out, that you wanted to use for your realizations of who and what you are. I see people suffering all the time when they could just look at their roadmap and just know just what the expressway is as opposed to the dirt road that they're trying to travel. But that's also part of our ego. To think that we can't be communicated with and we can't get information that's beyond what we see as the ordinary ways that we receive information. We completely cut out the intuitive psychic part of our nature, which is just as big as the intellectual, analytical reasoning side of our minds. So take advantage of everything the Spirit is putting in before you that can make your path easier. And I do Web Mastery at 7 o'clock p.m. on every Tuesday evening Mountain Time at facebook.com/Earl Purdy Live. You can see it whether you're a Facebook member or not. Also, Thursday nights I do hardcore Course in Miracles for people who already know they love the Course, want the Course, and want to go deep. It's not a convincing Thursday night class. It's not a class for convincing people that they should want to do this. This is classes for more for people who want to take advantage of my almost 40 years of being obsessed with this. So we can go through it together at a deeper level. And I can show you how the Course in Miracles interprets itself. You don't have to. There's a way to read the Course that you'll see everything he's saying to you, he's explaining as he goes, which can help cut out that process that most people do. Read a sentence. Let me figure out what that means and try to fit it into the belief system that I already have. Let me read another sentence. Let me take that off the page and see if I can fit it into the belief system that I already have. It actually anticipates every question you're going to have before you ask it. And sometimes you have to read 2 chapters forward before you get that answer. It may not be the very next sentence, but it anticipates everything you're going to do to try to block yourself. I declare it does. So don't make the Course in Miracles hard. It's using the Christian terminology, I believe, to help us get new interpretations of these terms that's in our subconscious mind that we're using to block ourselves. I think that's why it does it. I think that because if you grew up in any kind of traditional religious upbringing, you heard Son of God. You heard heaven. You heard kingdom. So this country is very Christian. So there's a lot of people. So the Course in Miracles isn't for everybody. The form of the Course in Miracles isn't for everybody. That's okay too. It's okay with me that the Course in Miracles doesn't appeal to everybody. I just want to be of service to those who it does appeal to, like it did for me. I'm not trying to convert anybody. I tell people, if you got a family member who's a staunch born-again Christian and they're happy with that, don't bring them to my class trying to change their mind. Why you want to give me that grief? You know what I'm saying? And I see people do that. They'll try to bring their relatives and friends who would hate everything that I'm saying. And I'm like, well, why? You thought you liked me. Why you bring them? Why you bring them? You know, they're going to think I'm crazy. They're not going to like nothing I'm saying. I may even create a little breach in y'all's relationship. Notice that I said if they're happy with what they are, which is different from a person saying, you know something, even though I might be believing this, I'm open to going to hear what you about and what you like, and I'd like to come check it out. That's different. But you all know what I'm talking about. You know the people that you shouldn't bring through this door. You know them. And so if you do, the Holy Spirit will use it for their advantage and my advantage and everybody's advantage. I trust the Holy Spirit. Even when I make a mistake, it can be used for my advantage. That's great. I'm glad to hear that. But don't just knowingly say stuff and share stuff with people that you know is going to frighten them. That you know is going to create separation. That's not helpful to anybody. To nobody. We are here to be examples of love. So basically we were hearing today what? What's one big point that somebody heard here today that they want to remember? Anybody. Something you heard today that you want to take away.
Stop recreating your past and your present.
Stop recreating your past and your present.
You're actually physically attacked when they stab you.
You're actually physically attacked. And believe me, I am not justifying attack in any way, shape, or form. I'm just saying until it happens, what? It hasn't happened. Right. Whatever it is.
That if I'm holding on to a story from my past, it's because I find more value in whatever it's doing for me. So if I'm holding on to pain, if I'm holding on to a way of looking at something that's not serving me, it's because I find value in it.
It's a payoff I'm getting out of it if I'm hanging on to. I'm still hanging on to something.
God doesn't forgive because He always sees us through the eyes of love.
That's right.
All He sees is love.
The forgiveness is something we're doing for ourselves and for God and toward God. Exactly.
See it as a call for help. See it as a call for love.
It's a call for help. It's a call for love. That'll transform your perception. I'm going to work all the way around. Yeah.
They said Christ is my true self.
The face of Christ is your true self, the one self we all share.
You can go ahead and skip that part, that suffering and punishment piece. You deserve it all.
You can go ahead and skip the punishment part and just go straight to I deserve it all. Will you join me on that, Terry?
Yes, I will.
Thank you, darling.
I'm creating everything that's happening.
that was quick and to the point. I'm creating everything that's happening to Matt.
I allow my misperceptions about God to be
Oh, good.
Say it again.
I allow my misperceptions about God to be corrected.
I allow my misperceptions about God to be corrected.
Now.
I accept my misperceptions about God to be corrected. I accept my misperceptions about God to be corrected. I accept my misperceptions about God to be corrected. Anybody online? They say my thoughts are being attacked are attack thoughts. That's right. Gemma says, allow my misperceptions of God to lead me astray. I have allowed my misperceptions of God to lead me astray and trick me. And Nana says, resistance is futile. That's awesome. That's awesome. Okay, I'm going to complete here, mighty companions. And then Sheila's going to make a quick announcement, and then we can dash out to make more guilt to forgive. Is that cool? So let's acknowledge us, Holy Spirit. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for showing up. Y'all some awesome, beautiful, powerful beings, online and in person. Okay, Miss Sheila.
Thank you, Earl. You said what I needed to hear. If you want to watch the talk you did at 11 o'clock this morning, you can just go on Unity Temple across from Christian.